Good to see you again. I was thinking, the key to solving the coronavirus catastrophe and to prevent it from happening again comes down to one basic principle. And that principle is awareness. What is awareness? Definition as used by the average person would be a perception, recognition, or knowledge of something or other. To the meditator, it means being present to the moment. That is in the here and now. So let me give you a few examples where I've observed a lack of awareness, and I'll give you a solution. So I go to the fruit and veggie shop during the lockdown. A shopkeeper is wearing protective gloves, and yet he is putting his fingers into his mouth while eating a biscuit. He then proceeds to touch individual pieces of fruit and stack them for the customers to buy. The problem is a lack of awareness. We get the example of a policeman not wearing a protective mask and stepping close to a pedestrian to lecture and fine him for being in public to feed the homeless. There are countless examples of police, politicians and journalists not wearing masks in situations in which they claim others must wear a mask or take a fine. I would suggest the real problem is a lack of self-awareness. Another example, Leonardo DiCaprio flies in his private jet to a climate change conference on the other side of the world to lecture everyone else on reducing fossil fuels, when he should have at the least taken a commercial flight, or better still, hooked up to a virtual conference over the internet. Is he a hypocrite? Of course he is. But the real problem is lack of awareness and walking his talk. Another example, Prime Minister Trudeau urged Canadians to stay at home, and then he drove across the provincial border to spend the weekend with his family in their holiday cottage. This was in violation of the coronavirus lockdown laws. So what is the problem? Is it that there is one law for the masses and another for the elite? Or is it just that Trudeau and people like him lack self-awareness? Or perhaps both. There was another example of a female Canadian politician who got called out for something similar to what Trudeau did. When it was brought to her attention, she apologised and resigned, which I don't think was a good idea. I think a better outcome would have been for her to acknowledge that she lacked awareness, which she did in a way. She called it human error. A better outcome would have been for her to keep her job and educate her fellow politicians, bureaucrats, authority figures, and the elite on the principle of self-awareness. This would have been much better. But sadly, she's gone. And my last example, Ezra Levant of Rebel News Canada discovered a documentary produced by the Chinese Communist Party about a Wuhan scientist whose passion was collecting viruses. So this video documentary was published in 2019 on their national television. So the scientist travels to a bat cave some 700 miles away or thereabouts to collect viruses. On one occasion, he was attacked by a bat and got bat blood on his body, while on another occasion, he got bat urine on his body. Both times, he quarantined himself for 2 weeks. Bats and other biological material were brought back to the Wuhan laboratory, which just happens to be about 2 miles from the wet market and not so far from the local hospital. So we have scientists who intentionally go to a remote cave to search for viruses and then bring them back to a crowded city. Once again, I will state that the problem is lack of awareness. I don't think any ordinary sane person would do what these scientists have been doing. The scientists can rationalize their behavior all they like and say that they're categorizing viruses for the benefit of humanity. But I think not. Sometimes it's better to let sleeping dogs lie. What we have is a government-funded organisation, God knows what their agenda is, a government-funded organisation intent on collecting deadly viruses. And the scientist who was the star of the documentary said something to the effect that he hoped the viruses would not be used for any evil purpose. So he had some awareness of the severity of the activity, but he lacked the awareness of a possible worst case scenario in which by accident the virus may be released into the community. So once again, we have the problem of a lack of awareness coupled with a egocentric desire to follow his heart's desire. So we get a selfishness, a self-centeredness, not thinking of others, only of self. And now let's take a look at the environment. Since the lockdown, what has changed in the physical environment? The polluted canals in Venice are now crystal clear and dolphins have returned. And there's been an unprecedented fall in air pollution in many cities. And one report says that the rats, which normally feed on the garbage behind New York restaurants, are starving and have begun cannibalizing each other. So you clean up the environment and the rats die off. Perhaps if we clean up the environment, then bugs and viruses may become less of a problem. Something to think about. But littering, it's a chronic problem. I saw some photographs on Facebook of face masks and plastic gloves littering the streets and beaches. So what is the problem? Lack of awareness. There's a bus stop just near my office. On one occasion, I watched a youth roll a cigarette. As he finished rolling the cigarette, he let the tobacco pouch fall to the ground at his feet. He then casually walked away, leaving the rubbish on the ground. People also leave their empty drink containers on the top of the public rubbish bin rather than putting it in the bin. Now, what is it about this entitled, privileged type of personality that results in such a lack of awareness? I also see people stuff rubbish bins so full with rubbish that the lid remains open. What happens? The crows come along and they drag the rubbish out onto the street, making a real mess. What is the problem? Lack of awareness, lack of responsibility, and lack of foresight. That is the consequences of their actions. Now keep in mind that there's an external environment and then there's your own physical body, which is your personal environment, which you need to take care of. So you need to take care with breathing in disinfectant fumes into your lungs. Keep that in mind the next time you go shopping and a well-intentioned person is spraying surfaces and the air with toxic disinfectant. What damage is that going to do to your lungs? Something to think about, isn't it? Now, so you damage your lungs with toxic disinfectant and then come in contact with a flu or Wuhan or COVID type virus or whatever, and it's just going to make you more susceptible to the virus. Something's not quite right. So if the presenting problem is a lack of awareness, then what is the solution? How do we wake people up? And keep in mind there are heaps of YouTubers calling at people for their hypocrisy, but to no avail. What I think needs to be done is to educate people on the principles and practice of awareness. But first off, there has to be a big reason why, a compelling reason why people should learn to be more mindful. Well, just take this lockdown and extend it for the next 10 years. Even if the lockdowns stop in the next few weeks, we're still going to suffer the consequences. It's costing Australian business about $4 billion a week. And it's likely that there will be massive food shortages. So we need to do something. And for me, the starting point is self-awareness. So let's bring the word awareness into common usage. Then teach people how to practice awareness and then continue to support and encourage them in this process. But of course, you can only teach people how to be aware if you can demonstrate self-awareness yourself. So how to practice awareness. So start with a simple meditative technique such as being in sensory awareness of what you can see, hear, feel, smell and taste. Just being in sensory awareness to your environment. Watching the breath. Practice watching the breath. So you notice the body is breathing. It's like, that's really interesting. The body's breathing. Just practice noticing the body is breathing. You could practice noticing the movement of the wind through the trees or the clouds across the sky. The curtains moving in the breeze. And you could practice being aware of the feet when you walk. Practice being aware of the feet when you walk. Practice being aware of picking up your teacup or your coffee cup and bringing it to the mouth and tasting it, feeling the sensations, feeling it go down. You've got your hand on it, you feel the sensations in the arm, you put the cup down, it's down, you complete the activity, you come back, be present to, you guys are there. So being aware of what or who you touch and what or who you touch next. And you could practice running in an awareness continuous where you methodically run your awareness down through the body, just noticing if there's any pain, discomfort or tension in the body. You don't try and do anything with it. All you're doing is you're noticing. You're just noticing if there's any pain, discomfort or tension. Just becoming more aware of your body. And once you've some practice at watching the physical aspects of yourself, then you bring awareness to your thought processes. Thoughts drive behavior. Every action is preceded by a thought, even if that thought may have been out of conscious awareness. If the thought does not serve you, then turn down the thought and bring in a more positive thought. And then, of course, you have to have awareness of your attention direction. Is your attention on yourself or is your attention on your other? And we could really address this to some of the politicians and the bureaucrats and the elites out there, couldn't we? Where is your attention? Is it on self or is it on other? And if you believe that people should act in a certain way, do you also apply that principle back to yourself? And if there's a rule or a law, then ask yourself, does it apply to you? If not, then why not? What makes you different? Once you can demonstrate self-awareness, then the onus is on you to train up your friends, your family, and your colleagues. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. I know it's a challenge. But are you willing to accept the challenge? To make it easy for you, if you'd like a copy of my meditation package at 50% off, then feel free to use the discount coupon that's below the video. Have any questions about that, give me a call. Join us over at the Facebook NLP Therapy Group. So thanks for watching. If you like the content, please like, subscribe. If you haven't done so, leave a comment below. And as I said, feel free to join us over at the Facebook NLP Hypnotherapy Group. And I look forward to seeing you again.